Cup.
Okay, we're live on my end. Sorry, did I jump the gun a bit?
"2019. Welcome to the Meng Show. I am your host, Meng Cho, and we are sitting down with the man, the moon, the legend. We're sitting down with Dan Wolfgang, and we are going to
Yo.
have a talk. Hello, Dan. How are you doing
Hello,
today?
doing alright. Got a bit of a frog in my throat though. Give me a sec.
Oh, that's never fun. I don't like frogs in my throat. Those are weird. How do you think that happened? Did you did
I
you
don't
just
know.
wake up on the wrong side, or?
Well, I did take a nap earlier, but I don't think it's
No,
from
I
that.
bet it was. I bet it was all that kissing you've been doing.
Ha.
You've been, you've been doing a lot of kissing lately. I'm sure that's what it is. One time I actually caught mono from
Ooh,
an
that's not fun.
ex-girlfriend. Yeah, man, that was nasty. She was nasty, but I was kind of in this mode of like, you know, when you overlook somebody's faults because you get other benefits from being around them. One of those. I got mono for my troubles. I'll never do that again.
Fun.
What's new with you, man? What's going on in the world of Dan?
Not a whole lot. Just been
Not a
eyeing
whole
this
lot.
one train simulator game I kind of want to play.
Train simulator game. Really?
Yeah, I've never
So
tried
tell
them
me about it.
before.
What do you get to do in it?
You drive a diesel engine. According to the one of the reviews I read, it's one of the most realistic train simulator games on the market right now. Like, other than the graphics being kind of not perfect, because a lot of games are, the sounds are and the physics are supposed to be like really, really realistic.
That's good. I see this game right now. It's called. Oh boy, what's it called? It's a logistics simulator. It's similar to A Train. And you manage transports. That's it, transports, and it's on Steam right now. And it was on sale recently. I don't think it's on sale anymore. The interface looks okay. It looks a little bit on the higher learning curve side of things in terms of where things are laid out, but it looks good. It's got kind of a cell shaded look to it, and you basically just hook up transportation, busing, rail systems for little towns that are dotted throughout the countryside, so that they can actually function and get goods to and from. So I like it.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't bite the bullet and get it though. I was like, I don't know, because I had other projects and stuff on the go, and I didn't want to get into something sort of big and demanding like that. So
Yeah. That
I
reminds
held
me,
off a little bit.
I need to get back to playing. What was it? Not Ultima. Some Underworld Ascendant. It's sort of a spiritual successor to the Underworld games and the System Shock games and the Thief series, and it is just really, really fun and really great and really well put together. It's really not well optimized because it's a Unity game, and there are parts where the graphics are a little rough, but it's just fantastic.
Sweet. And now is it developed in the kind of Warren Spector methodology?
I think so, yeah.
So it's got a lot of branching paths and like character
Yes.
classes and
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
RPG elements.
the classes you can take are you can either play as like a rogue or a mage or a fighter.
Oh, that narrows it down.
Yep. But there is branching within because you get to pick this sort of skill tree similar to how I think Final Fantasy X was it? What was the one that did the branching skill paths? Oh, I guess a lot of games do that though.
I think 12 had that with the license board.
Yeah, I only played the demo at 12.
Yeah, I played the demo and wasn't horribly impressed. I was like, oh, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Then I bought the game and I realized what they were trying to do, and what they're trying to do is pretty cool in concept, but in execution, I don't really feel like the battle system and the engine and all that really come together. It just feels like a lot of tedium over time, especially with some of the bosses, which are just so like they're like hit point sponges, and battles that would ordinarily take maybe even less than 10 minutes in a classic Final Fantasy game end up taking well over 45, especially with some of the harder bosses, which is just kind of ridiculous. And you're constantly running around them, trying to flank them, and you have this sort of quasi AI system called the Gambit system that manages your teammates for you, and it's not bad, but you have to manage that on top of manually overriding them when you need certain things done. So it's like you're trying to manage an AI that manages your characters at the same time that you have to step in and manage your characters.
Hey Snoodles. Snoodles in the chat says nerds.
Oh yeah, we're nerding it up hardcore, dude. We're just absolutely enmeshed in the nerdery right now.
Yeah, we're talking Final Fantasy. We'll play entire night. You know, how nerdy can you get?
Well, we don't. I mean, we can do that. Do you want me to do that? Is that what you're saying? You want that? Okay, I'm down with. Well, how about you, Dan? Are you down with that?
Sure, we can keep talking about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, sure. Nobody will care if we talk about one topic for an entire hour. Yeah, what will be wrong with that, right?
Well, okay. All right. So, what was your first Final Fantasy?
Oh, my first Final Fantasy. Okay, there's a good question. My first one was Final Fantasy II for the SNES, which is really 4, and that was a good one to start off with. I remember it well. I remember that when I got into my first battle mode, I was having fun with pressing A to cycle through all of the story, and I was just starting to enjoy it, and then suddenly I'm on the world map, and I take 2 steps, and I go into a battle, and I literally like jumped out of my skin when that happened. I thought that like my brain was about to implode on itself with how shocked I was by that stupid battle transition.
Yeah, that always happens the first time you play one of those. It wasn't as spooky for me because I played a bit of Pokemon. I think my first Final Fantasy was the first one, but I didn't get very far. I think I got over that one bridge that with the intro of the game, and then I kind of got bored of it after that until I picked it up later on. But the first one that I beat was Final Fantasy III for the Nintendo DS.
Oh, really? That's an interesting one to start off with.
Yeah, that one, man, they made it so much better than the NES version in a lot of ways because they made the characters more like actual characters instead of just 4 soldiers. But they kind of forget about that after the main game starts. But it's still pretty interesting for the intro.
Yeah, like they make a little bit of an attempt, but they can't really budge too far from the original skeleton of the game, which is kind of a downer.
I think there was one part where one of the characters had something to do with had something important going on and made the main plot, but it is kind of forgotten by the end.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's a normal thing to happen in an RPG is when plot points that are introduced at the beginning utterly evaporate and are never touched on again later on. Right? That happens all the time.
Yep. So it goes. I still like the game though.
Yeah, it's good. I remember I played it. I actually own it for the DS. I haven't played it in a long time. I think I got to the sewer part, and then where you have to like become frogs or something, and then I just kind of like.
Yeah, it is very grindy, especially when. What happened to me is a lot of the bosses, one of the party members would die, and then when that happens, they don't get XP from that boss fight, so you might as well not have gotten any XP at all if you're like me and you need to have a balanced party, because you don't want the character to die again at the next boss fight.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is annoying. I don't know. I find systems like that. I just found the whole system of Final Fantasy 3 was a little bit like a muddled version of Final Fantasy 5 with the jobs and all that. What did you think about it?
I didn't actually get that far in 5 because the copy that I got turned out to be a bootleg, and then the battery in it died pretty quick.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that FF5 is like everybody got excited in 2000 and it was like the early 2000s when the ROM got released and translated, and everybody was getting excited because it was like an unreleased Final Fantasy game. And then it came out, and I remember playing it for the first time and being like, this is okay, this is all right, but I don't know, it didn't really feel like it held a candle to six in terms of story.
Yeah, 6 is another one I gotta get back to. I didn't. Another one that I haven't actually gotten that far in.
Yeah, yeah.
We should probably
There
talk
are
about
odd
one that
games.
I've actually played more of.
Yeah,
I think I
there
still
are
think.
odd games.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, that's all right. I was just saying they're odd games and that they're pretty easy to get into, but in terms of finishing them, it just I don't know. It's almost like your brain doesn't want any more of it after a while.
Yeah, yeah. I totally understand.
I remember trying to get back into Final Fantasy VIII after I got the Ragnarok, and I didn't really feel like doing the whole like. There's this very long section in the fourth disc where it just goes on, and it's all leading up to the final confrontation. I don't know. I just didn't really feel like going into it. I was like, I had so much fun with the game up to that point. I didn't really want to put it to bed. So when I came back to it like a year later, I had completely forgotten everything I needed to do and stock up on. So I was like out of my groove. So I had to start all over. But oh well.
Yeah, well.
You ever find that you get into games like that where you start off with them with a lot of gusto and gung ho and it doesn't really pan out?
It's happened a couple times, I guess. I don't know. I'd have to think on that.
I think there have been some exceptions. I mean, like Earthbound, Mario RPG. Uh, I think Super Mario Sunshine, though. I think that game. I started off really enjoying it, and then it progressively got more and more annoying to me.
Yeah, those blue coins, man. Those just killed it for me.
Yeah, I think the one that absolutely killed me was the Yoshi one, where you had to squirt juice onto those fish, turn them into platforms, and you had to squirt it on them at exactly the right angle, or the platforms would end up being too high for you to jump onto.
Don't remember which one of those. Was that later in the game? Because I know I didn't beat the game.
Yeah, yeah, that was at Rico Harbor. It was the last
Ah,
shine.
okay.
Yeah, that was just like, oh my gosh, really? And I would jump and try to get on, but the Yoshi controls are horrible. And they tried putting that flutter jump in that Yoshi does, but it just was all like slippery and terrible, and the inertia was wrong. So I would just fail miserably over and over on that one part, and because if you fall in the water as Yoshi in that game, he dissolves. You have to get another one.
hmm The one good thing I did really like.
Disposable,
Oh, sorry.
water-soluble Yoshis. Yeah, water-soluble Yoshis.
The one thing I
Hey
did like.
guys,
Sorry, go on.
it's all right. We keep doing this. Hey, go ahead.
Okay, the one thing I did like about that game was how all of Mario's moves from Mario 64 are there, and they made him like he jumps a lot higher now. It's neat. Mario seems a little bit more powerful than he did in 64, and then
That's true.
plus you have the flood thing, so you
Yeah,
can.
I absolutely love the controls in Sunshine. I thought Sunshine had amazing controls. I liked the fact you could correct your jumps using the flood. Like all that stuff was great. I love doing the side jumps in Sunshine. It just felt so good the way the GameCube controller felt. All that. The controls in that game were just superb.
Yeah,
You could kind of tell like that game was designed for that controller too. Like just the layout of the face buttons on the GameCube controller. You know, A is like this giant button, and then Y and X and B are like little option buttons around it. And then the flood having the analog triggers. I don't know, it just felt very much like a game designed for that controller. And then they didn't have everything ready, so they had to fart out Luigi's Mansion at launch.
yeah. And then even when Sunshine did come out, it could have been better. Or it could have been longer. I mean, it could have. They clearly wanted to get it out there early in the console's life cycle, which I kind of don't see the point of, since you already have Smash Brothers. You already kind of have the console's killer app, so they could have waited.
Yeah, they really needed Smash Brothers at launch. I mean, Luigi's Mansion is cute and all, but it was not enough to really carry the hardware. But yeah, Smash Brothers came out like a month after the system launched, and a lot of people, especially when you're like a 16-year-old young man, really balked at the system and thought that it was for kids and stuff. And they were right, but at the same time, it was just an optical problem. That the system didn't really recover from that until well into its twilight, and then after that, now people look back on it very fondly.
Yeah. Do you think people are going to look back on the Wii in the same way?
Yeah, I do because Virtual Console was on there, and there were a lot of cool games for the Wii. I mean, the Wii did have it had a lot of shovelware. It had a big library, but with a lot of shovelware, and some very very cool games on it.
Yeah. The problem with the Wii is that most of the customer base bought it for Wii Sports, and then maybe they bought Carnival games or something, or one other minigame collection title, but then they didn't buy all the really good games on it. Like crap, what was the one? There were like there were a handful of FPS games did that barely anyone bought. Apparently, were pretty good because they used the Wii motion controls.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. Yeah, I mean, Wii Sports Resort was that was pretty cool. I liked some of the stuff in Wii Sports Resort, but again, you're right. I mean, it just seemed like a console that was trying to please almost sort of like too many diverging markets at the same time. Like you had the more kind of ultra casual set that wanted Wii Fit and stuff like that, that wanted kind of experimental, novel, practical stuff, and then you've got the hardcore people that just want games that are made of a certain like caliber or a certain challenge and difficulty level.
Yeah,
And those two groups are just at loggerheads. They are at loggerheads, and I think the PC is the only system that can actually properly satisfy both camps. I mean, you know, relatives, parents, grandparents, they love playing Sudoku. They love playing their casual stuff in their PC that they get through browsers and Facebook and all that. And then they've got the hardcore set that love PC because of the detail you get with the controls. So I don't know. I think the PC is kind of king right now, and maybe it always has been, but we just the cost of hardware upkeep over the years has been kind of prohibitive. But I think we're at a point now where you can get a really solid system for like, you know, $700 custom and not have to worry too much.
yeah. And plus, the PC can do a lot more than you can with a game console.
Yeah, I mean you can hook an Xbox controller up to it or a USB retro controller. I have both options, and if you need that kind of control, and one thing I don't like is the Xbox One's analog sticks. They have this horrible tire tread on the edge of them. It carves up your thumbs as you play. And I don't know why they implemented that. The 360 analog sticks were perfect because they didn't have that.
Mm.
But maybe that's just me because I've got little weird thumbs. I don't know.
Hey, who knows? Maybe that's the reason why the console isn't selling that well.
It could be, it could be. Yeah, like when I think of the best controller, I think GameCube right off the bat. GameCube is the most comfortable controller I've ever used. I mean that thing was just utterly the comfiest. You had these really nice snug handles on it. You had the analog shoulder buttons. Sometimes they're a little bit wobbly, but they weren't bad.
Yeah.
Even the Z button. I say Z, by the way. That should be a dead giveaway that I'm not from there. Yeah, even that button was not something that bothered me too much because it was rarely ever used. So they were just using it as like an option button. It wasn't a trigger.
Yeah, my only problem with the GameCube controller is that the analog sticks wore out after a while. Whereas I felt the PlayStation 2 and 3, the analog sticks kind of held together better. I mean, they kind of began to wobble after a while, but they seemed a little more sturdier.
Yeah, I just didn't like the PS2. I've never liked their placement of analog sticks. I don't like them both at the bottom. And I also do not like the gigantic, massive pads on the PS1 and 2 analogs, and 3. The 4 has a nicer feel to it.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear you. The PS2 also had those mushy buttons though, the face buttons. They had the pressure sensitive face buttons. I never enjoyed that, especially in racing games, because racing games they usually programmed them to make use of the analogness, and it meant that you had to press the buttons extra hard to make them like accelerate and decelerate your
Hmm.
vehicle. I just always found that kind of awkward and annoying, personally. So tell me some more about what's going on with the blog. You've got that blog that
Oh
you've had
gosh,
for some time,
I
QQ
haven't
Media.
I haven't posted that in ages.
Yeah,
I
I
should.
noticed. I noticed. No, that's fine. I haven't done it much with my blog either on mangcho.com. I just have those old articles on there from last year, but honestly, it's just hard to get the time. It's hard to get time.
Yeah.
I have a seasonal business and I have to max that out when I can. So sitting down and writing a really controversial, deeply offensive article that 5 people are going to read is not something that's huge on my list of priorities. Maybe if I was a better writer, it would be, but
Now, for me, what'll happen in my writing process will be I'll think of something and then just sit down and hammer it out. At least that's been my writing process recently. But the problem with that is that then that tends to either produce gold or other crap.
yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a hard one because you don't know exactly what's going to be a big hit and what is going to not connect. Like if I could write the crappiest article, it seems, and put zero effort into it, and it turns out being the most popular one I've ever written. And then other times I will spend so much effort like cross-referencing sources and embedding YouTube videos and doing all this fancy stuff and it will get probably the same amount of attention and praise. So, crapshoot. I find that people respond best to stuff they're familiar with. Like
Yeah.
if somebody's really familiar with The Simpsons, and you make an article about The Simpsons, that's all people are going to look at. And I think this ties into that whole thing of nostalgia being such a driver for business. I mean, all the Netflix shows now that do really well are all banking on nostalgia and stuff. So, Stranger Things, I mean, that whole show is just pure nostalgia being served up in a new kind of package. So I don't blame you for being a little bit slower on the content production when it comes to your blog because, quite frankly, I think this kind of thing that we're doing right now is going to be where most people are heading towards. I mean, I can't claim that it's going to be the most visually interesting podcast in the universe or anything like that, but at least there's going to be we're situating ourselves where people are a little more than with a blog or something.
Yep.
What do you think about Tower Unite in that sense? Do you think that it's going to become like a big deal?
I don't know. It's still in early access, so it's hard to tell at this stage. I think it
I
could
don't
be,
know.
certainly.
Yeah, I see a lot of support for it. I mean, people generally like it. Even the ones that like to complain about everything are pretty like positive about it. I find it has a very positive spirit and energy to it. People tend to be very helpful to one another. Um, I've noticed a lot of like funny turf war behavior between weebs and furries, which is very, very amusing to me.
I haven't
Like you
noticed.
got,
Oh, sorry.
that's all right. Go ahead.
I haven't noticed that much myself, to be honest.
I think it happens mostly in the LA server. Tend to
Ah,
be
okay.
very, very, yeah. It's like you're either a weeb or you're a furry, and I'm neither. So I just hang out in the theater. I just invite people. I'll go to the square. I'll see people who are kind of bored, and I'll say, "Hey, you want to watch something in the theater?" And they're, "Oh yeah, sure." They go, and they need experience there, so they can unlock the throwable popcorns. They can throw popcorn at the screen and each other.
Wait, is there really a throwable popcorn thing?
Yes, there is. Somebody used some on me. I was like, "Hey, what's going on? How do you get that?" I thought that we just bought stationary buckets and they didn't do anything.
So there's someone out there who sat in that theater for so long and watched so many YouTube videos that they can now throw popcorn at the screen.
That's exactly correct, my friend. You can actually throw popcorn at the screen at YouTube videos because you left your character in there for like 5 hours and they amassed like 5 hours worth of experience, which is wonderful, by the way.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, you're already marked as AFK. Oh, there we go.
I know it happens when I push the push to talk too long. That's all right. I don't know. I think this place has the potential to overtop uh, VR chat.
Well, VR chat seemed to be kind of a flash in the pan. Like, no one really talks about it anymore, you know?
I hear you. Yeah. You know what's really funny though is when you go to the theater. I mean, it's true that VR chat is gradually losing steam. However, if you go to the movie theater in this game and you go like this and you sit next to people and then you move a little closer, this just a little bit uncomfortable. Little bit uncomfortable. I don't know. Do you feel a little bit uncomfortable right now?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. I just find it funny because somebody will be like, there'll be somebody with a crystal avatar, like from Star Fox Adventures, and they'll be up in the back furthest row of the theater, and they'll be like watching a YouTube of a Twitch streamer recording of like some fat bearded guy playing Kingdom Hearts, and I go up there and I'm like, oh boy, this is great. What is this? The fat bearded guy show? And I just sit right up next to them and I'm like staring at them the whole time. Great. This game takes griefing to a whole new level. It becomes like art. That's what I think anyway. I think that this is definitely like the kind of griefing that goes on here is not like Second Life where you just spam like pricks everywhere. It's a kind of griefing where it's very subtle and it's very social. It's like
Yeah.
when you see, yeah, yeah, when you see somebody trying to do something or like working really hard to enjoy something, and you just, you take out your confetti, or you take out your laser pointer, because that's another thing you have access to is a laser pointer. You have a laser pointer. It's like, you know, you're like this.
I think it's still on the confetti. Oh, there we go.
You just hold it in front of their eyeballs. Like,
Try
does
holding
this
it in
hurt?
front of mine. I don't
There we
see
go.
it
Can
doing
you see
it.
that?
No,
You
you're
don't see
aiming
it?
at the wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How about now?
you're still
Now?
aiming it at the wall.
Now? Let me know when it happens.
Try turning. Oh, no, what it is? It's probably because you're sitting down.
Oh,
There you go. Okay, now try it.
there we go. Oh,
Oh,
it
yeah, I
doesn't
see
work
it.
when you. Woo! I'm gonna give you like brain damage from from the laser pointer. Gonna give you virtual brain damage. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna crouch. I'm gonna make it extra creepy. I just want to point it into your face. I love how there's like a little what do you call it? Like a dispersal over the surface. You get really close. You can see like the shine of the laser. Oh, I feel so wrong doing this. I'm gonna stop. Yeah, there we go. I just find that hilarious. Like when somebody's talking to you, you just point the laser pointer at their face, and it did just blinding them. Oh, it's so good. So yeah, when it comes to this, what is the deal with this alt right stuff, man? I
That's
don't
still
get it.
going.
Is that still going? Like, does anybody care about the alt right anymore, or has it just become like an ancient meme?
I think there's a small minority of people who care about Richard Spencer's marital drama, because that is still going, but I don't know if they're doing anything else.
Good lord, who cares? That's like the most boring thing I've heard in minutes. That has nothing to do with you. I'm just talking like that's just
No, no, I
so
gotcha.
boring.
I think she slapped him in the face or something, or it might have been he hit her. I don't remember, and it's just, yeah, it's of the kind of relationship drama that there is out there. That is pretty boring. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's always stupid stuff going on with annoying people. Richard Spencer, I never liked him. I always thought he's like that Finnish guy. There's like this Finnish guy that's like I suppose he's a white supremacist. I don't know what he is, but he's just this like right wing Finnish dude, and he wants to sort of position himself as this hardcore right wing intellectual martyr. I forget his name. Anyway, some people like worship him like a demigod. He's like gonna bring the Norway and Finland and Sweden back to normalcy and kick out all the Muslim migrants that are making it more and more like the third world there. And I'm like, I don't think that's really that this guy has the resources to make that happen. No, I don't think the guy that gets glamour shots of himself sitting in a director's chair with a cigar, looking pensively into space. Somehow, I don't think that guy is going to be too interested in finding solutions to that. There's a lot of ego there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my cynicism talking. It's just these guys that like the minute that there's some kind of movement that they sort of agree with, and they have a reasonably high IQ, they go on these kind of cult quests to build a little cult around themselves of personality or what have you, and it's just embarrassing. I don't feel like I do that. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where people just They want to be the guy. Want to be the guy.
Yeah, that's how it
You
goes.
can't always be the guy.
Hey, how's the chat doing on your end? I got a few in mind. Let me pull that up. We got Newt
That's a
here. We
really
got Uiko.
that's a really good question. I've not been looking at that. Let me see what I got here.
Yeah, Tower Unite doesn't have microtransactions.
Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice to not have microtransactions in a video game?
Hmm. Oh, the AVGN came out.
AVGN. What do
The
you mean?
nerd.
The nerd? You mean where? Where did he come out? Did he come out of the closet? I hope not. That would be creepy and weird considering he's married and has a child.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Doesn't he have a second child now?
I don't know.
Maybe. I remember when he had his child, it was like a big deal. And he like posted about it and it was like cute. It was like a big exciting moment for him. And his wife, of course.
Of course.
I always find it funny how there's like this homo fascist movement, you know? The whole homo fascist thing. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get the attraction to that. Maybe you do, I don't know. Maybe you're around people that express that more articulately than people I'm around.
And I was a bit late to the party regarding the whole fascist thing. Like, I kind of, like, when I first heard of it, it kind of spooked me for obvious reasons. But then like, late last year, I sat down with Mussolini's Doctrine of Fascism, and it's like, wow, this is really entertaining and really kind of interesting. I mean, maybe, I don't know if I'd actually want to live in that kind of a society, but still, it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah. I like oh man. I just I look at like you're saying it really is a thought experiment, but I look at the logistics of running things that way. I say to myself, you know, why would a person that has a homosexual desire that's persistent think that this is a way of doing things that would necessarily improve their life when the vast majority of people don't feel the way they do about their sexuality and would probably make things more difficult for them in terms of the kind of lifestyle that they're driven to live. It seems at cross purposes. Like I can understand being communist and homosexual more easily than I can fascist and homosexual.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, because communism makes zero attempt to try to restrict that sort of behavior. In fact, it basically encourages it. It encourages that kind of view of people as fodder that can be used in any way, provided that it results in a benefit of some kind to both parties. Whereas fascism tends to lean on the side of tradition, and tradition is governed by a lot of fixed principles about biology and what contributes to the health of the people. So it just feels like communism would be a little bit more comfortable a fit for gays than fascism. I think that makes sense. I don't know. Hey, people in the chat room, let us know if that what I said made some kind of sense.
The thing about communism I've kind of realized is that there are a lot of people who are just frankly lying about it. Like, did you know that Karl Marx is not nearly as much of a fedora tipper as people say he is? No, I don't necessarily like Marx, but at the same time, I like one of the reasons why communism is still popular is because people are just outright lying about it, and then you get these people who they'll hear the lies and then they'll go and check it out and realize, hey, I've been lied to. Then therefore this must be the truth, you know?
Yeah, Yeah, that's very true. People get pretty sick of getting lied to all the time. Like there's a certain point you get to where you can't take it anymore. You play along when you feel you're able to, and it doesn't really conflict with your own ideas or principles because you may not have a really well-founded set of those. But then after a certain point, when enough things are not making sense and are not coinciding with reality, and you're starting to form emotional opinions about stuff, and people are just like neurotically blocking those out of their brain in order to uphold things, the kind of order that everybody's agreeing to tacitly, people get fatigued by that. I think that that's the biggest thing is that you just get tired of it. It's not even that you're getting mad, it's just that you're sick of it. You're tired.
Yeah.
Like when I think of my own conversion to Catholicism, I frame it in terms of just getting sick and tired of having to nod my head and go, yeah, sure, okay, all this stuff makes perfect sense to me. All this approach we're taking to theology is 100% awesome. I can live with this. Why, yes, you can mold me to become a reverend of an Anglican parish. That's a great thing. Great, great, great. Things are great. You know, you begin to realize that you're becoming very much a marginalized voice too when you start to speak out against stuff that your tribe is doing. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, or somebody like tries to push you out because of some principles you hold that you believe that the rest of the group should be adhering to avoid becoming.
I guess that kind of did happen during Gamergate, but I kind of don't want to bring that up since it's like, man, it's been almost 5 years now, I think.
Where did that happen again?
During Gamergate, when do you really want me to go into that garbage?
Hey, sure. This is the
Alright.
garbage zone, man.
Okay,
This
basically,
Christian rug didn't pay for itself.
during Gamergate, there was kind of a sentiment that if we took part in video game boycotts, we said no, we're not going to buy any more video games because of what you people did to us, or it was more complicated than that, but you get the idea. There was the sentiment that we couldn't engage in that sort of tactics, you know. And so after a while, there was an idea that me and a few others were gonna go boycott the latest Star Wars Battlefront game because it had barely any features compared with the 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2, and we were like, well, this is EA, enough is enough, don't buy this garbage. And a lot of the people who were in the Gamergate DM groups and whatnot, and the VDM group and the V thread were they didn't want it. They didn't want any of that, so they kind of stopped talking to me then.
So you felt like they were betraying their own principles.
I'm
Is that fair
betraying
to
mine
say?
certainly. I don't know about theirs, but then I wouldn't really call them principled individuals.
So if you wanted to reform that group, in fact, let's say like what would be an outcome to how that group was doing things that would satisfy you? Like what would they need to
Hmm.
do?
I don't know. That's something I haven't thought all that much about. I guess stop continuing to give money to the video game companies, or at least the bad ones. I mean, obviously, you bought Tower Unite, and I bought Tower Unite, and that's well, I bought off G2A, but it's fine to buy from a game company that didn't take part in any of that garbage, or someone like Daniel Vavra who is clearly on the side of the gamers. But
Right.
yeah, to continue to give money to companies like EA or whoever that are either clearly encouraging this by how, I mean, what was it at EA? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, the all the stuff they did with BioWare, where all the Mass Effect garbage since during and since 3, like to continue to give them money after that, it's just what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, Mass Effect Andromeda was just a nightmare of look. Like, it just looked awful. I did not play the game. I'm not claiming that it had good or bad gameplay, but it just looked absolutely abysmal. I could not believe that they had art directors that made those. The sheer level of unprofessionalism was staggering.
Yeah, it's what was it? I think what they did with that, like obviously the people who worked on games like Knights of the Old Republic or Neverwinter Nights or what have you, they're not working for Bioware anymore. So whoever they hired for Andromeda, it's got to be like basically almost an entirely new team. So they probably hired someone who's like just out of art school or wherever. Probably got in through some kind of friend of a friend or family connection.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. I mean, I have I know people who work in the industry. I know that there are artists, insanely talented artists out there that work for concept art, illustration, art direction, and they get, you can tell that at a certain point they just get burned out by it. They can't stomach it after a while.
Yeah.
It's just like an assembly line. It's literally just like, you know, going to a Chinese buffet restaurant and they're like, order up, order up. Like it's just it's like that. One very good example is Tracy Butler. She's the one that does Lackadaisy. It's that comic about the cats in Prohibition times. Maybe you've heard of it. I don't know.
I've heard of it, but
Anyway,
I haven't reread it. It's one of those where it's yeah, I'll get to it one of these days.
I'll be honest. The writing does not really click with me. Just that's me. But
Yeah.
the artwork is unbelievable. It is some of those beautifully, lovingly, lusciously crafted artwork I've ever seen for a comic strip. It's like she would take the better part of 3 weeks to make one comic strip. It was on a crazy timetable, and this is back in like 2007 when this kind of stuff was not like that model for making a creative business was simply not viable at that time. Nowadays, it's a different story because of subscribers and stuff, Patreon and all that.
Well, no, it
Back then,
was. There were people who made money off webcomics back then, but it was all
oh sure,
merchandise sales and book
oh sure,
sales.
yeah, but she literally didn't even have KeenSpot. Like she was just making stuff on her domain name website, lackadaisycats.com.
Yeah. Like I think even the people who do book sales, they don't make all that much because why would you buy a webcomic in book form when you can just read it online?
Right, exactly. Now, in her case, her stuff is so detailed that you would want to own it in a book because it's so, like, amazing to behold. Having a physical book would be an ideal way of reading it versus online.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she could only get a book deal initially in Italy, and because her work was having a bigger impact there than anywhere else. So, she did it though. I mean, I don't think she works in the game industry anymore. She said nuts to that and moved out into just doing this, or I don't think she's in the game industry. I could be wrong. She might still do commission work for them. She is not a part of that deeply as I can recall. Tracy Butler, if you're watching this exciting podcast where we're talking about you, talking out of me particularly talking out of my ass about you, Feel free to weigh in on whether or not you're still working in the games industry, but I'm pretty sure she's not.
Well, I can look actually. Let me check that real
I
quick.
think that's no. At least I didn't pull a CNN and say that I have like trusted anonymous sources telling me that Tracy Butler doesn't work in the game. So I guess I'm a cut above CNN at least.
Well, let me look real quick. Tracy Butler. That is there an E in Tracy?
Tracy J. Butler.
Okay.
Tracy.
Okay, so it is spelled right.
I somehow doubt you'll find the results in 10 minutes because in 10 minutes I'm going to be doing my comedy set.
No, I got it. Last game that Tracy Butler worked on was Lara Croft Relic. Ooh, a mobile game. Oh no. Lara Croft Relic Run in 2015.
All right.
A runner game. iPad. Oh.
Well, I bet that it looks really good because Tracy is a great artist. I'm just saying. I mean, I'd hire Tracy to make my game for me.
Okay, the setting looks really nice. I will say this. The level design, the level design, the sort of how the environment looks, that looks really nice. Laura herself looks kind of dead, so I'm guessing that Tracy Butler did not work on the character. Yeah, she just did art direction. So that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, because that makes sense too on another level that Tracy does beautiful backgrounds in her comic. They're really gorgeously detailed. She actually use old period photographs from the 1920s to make sure the vehicles and the buildings looked authentic.
Let's see, I'm trying to see who did character design, but I don't see it on here. Like, I see a bunch of artists, but none specifically that say character designer. Because the character design just looks really bland, and Laura looks very kind of zombie-like in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. But at least we know that she had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
It's possible for her to make zombie characters. So I had a guy. I was promoting my comedy set in the Plaza lobby on I think it was the LA server, and I'm like, hey, come on down to my comedy club, diddly do. And then this guy comes up and he's like this kind of swishy millennial type. He comes on voice chat and he's like, are you going to be making fun of minorities in your comedy routine? And I'm like, I didn't want to dignify it with a response, but it's one of those things where you still have to give a response. So I was just like, I don't even know what that means. And then he goes, well, it's a very simple question. I just want to know if you're making fun of minorities in your routine. And I said, I don't have no idea what that means, buddy. I just do comedy. And then he goes, okay, I think I'll pass. Bye. And I was like, oh man. That guy was totally like a Fed or something. He was probably David Hogg.
Your tax dollars at work, folks.
Yeah, man. I think David Hogg is on...
Not your tax dollars, my tax dollars.
David Hogg is on Tower Unite, and he's trying to find out where all the evil alt-right are on Tower Unite. More like Tower alt-right. Get it? I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny. Maybe you didn't. Maybe I just have bad taste.
It's not your best.
I don't think so. I think that was like, that was a little down there, you know? That was a little down there.
It was looking fruit.
It was on the slush pile. That's like one of the ones that... It's one of the ones Norm Macdonald would have one of his guests read out at the end of his show. I thought it was pretty funny though how one of our colleagues, who is experimenting with Orthodox Christianity, claims that the filioque is more like the filio gay.
I don't know enough about that to speak on such matters, to be honest.
Well, I do, unfortunately. So I'll suffer for you. This is a good format for this. I like this.
I feel like we should be moving around though, like maybe not walking somewhere, but I don't know. Do you think it's gonna be boring? We're just us just sitting here.
I don't know. It like Joe Rogan just sits there and
Yeah,
people watch
true.
him. I mean, he's literally like the George Lucas filmmaker of podcasts. I got A camera and B camera.
You gotta find a way to get to switch between them, like have get like two or three computers hooked up to this to just sit there, and then have some way to cross the streams or something, so you can switch between them as we're going here. That or
That'd be
just edit
beautiful.
and post.
I know. I would love it if those cameras, like there are TV camera props you can get, and I would love it if they were actual cameras that recorded what is going on in front of them, like NPCs, and then fed the footage to your hard drive. That would rock. Like, imagine having actual camera props here that worked, and then feeding it all to my hard drive, and then I edit it using Vegas. I mean, that would be delicious. Delicious. I tell you, it would be delicious, but they won't do that. I don't see why. Oh well. If I can download your stream, then I can make some stuff out of this. I think.
Sure, sure,
I
sure
think.
thing.
I think I can do post production. Yeah. I'll also. I'll have to make sure I be like Joe Rogan even more, and just get a guy named Jamie who can do all my search engine. Be like, hey Jamie, can you bring that up? Jamie, we're talking about video games. I know nothing about video games because I'm a boomer. Can you tell me about that, Jamie? Jamie's really smart. He knows how to type words into a search engine. He's really good with computers, not like me. Yeah, I like it. I like this. I like everything about this, and I like everything about you and everything that you've been sharing today. Dan Wolfgang, you are the man with the details on games and politics and jerks in Gamergate that don't have any sort of scruples.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, it's nice to meet people that have scruples, even if they're horrible alt-right fascists. Alt-right. That's just such a pretentious thing.
I hate it.
I'm not right wing. I'm alt-right wing. I'm like some other kind of right wing. This is just so dumb. So dumb.
I get
Like
it in the
Lee
sense.
Powers.
I get it in the
Yeah.
sense if you don't want to be associated with the neocon types, but just call yourself the right then. You know? Just
The
say
neocon types, they're not even right wing. They're just
they
like
are.
they're like neoliberal, like communist stooges that masquerade as believing in individualism.
Well, they're neoliberals who are more honest about how neoliberalism works.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's when you get down to it, this whole globalist thing is a fundamentally capitalist enterprise in the sense that, at least in the sense that the human being is reduced to material output.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, that's just the common thread between capitalism and communism. That's not some kind of like ultra anti-communist stance or anything. It's not really a right-wing thing. It's just an area where the right and the left can fundamentally agree if they're humanless, they're soulless enough.
Well, the thing is, the argument that you're putting, I'm trying to think how to put it. The viewpoint that you're putting forth would be considered ultra right wing in Europe, but it's kind of not really on the political map here in the States. Not unless, I don't know, maybe if you count PaleoCon, but even then they're still, I think they're still capitalist in some sense. I'd have to read more into it.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I mean, neoconservatism has always been to me just about this. It's just another tentacle of the same diseased body. Like it's just another approach to how you get globalism achieved, and it's just a different flavor of that, different style of rhetoric to get that project off the ground. The sad part is it's already off the ground and it's already stampeding forward. And, despite the efforts of people like Trump and others like him, it's on its way. And pretty soon, I don't know. I mean, he could be like Cyrus rebuilding Jerusalem, but at this point, it's a little too early to tell.
Well, my hope, and this could very well just not happen, I'm sure, but my hope is that now that the Mueller report is out and it's pretty clear he didn't do it and they have no way of impeaching him, that he's going to come out swinging again. And we are seeing some signs of it, but right now it's just talk. We haven't seen any real action yet. I don't think. I don't know. Did he sign that one executive order to enforce free speech on state-funded universities?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting to see something at least. I'm trying to think. There was something. Oh yeah, Obamacare. If he really does repeal Obamacare and declare unconstitutional, then yeah, that'll prove that this is right. That it is the Mueller report was holding him back, and now that that's gone, he can do what he wants again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ink has dried on the executive order. I don't think that's. Ah, I can't. I might be confusing it with another one that he signed, but I think that it's something he's proposed, but it's not something that he's actually like signed yet.
Yeah,
But as far as the Obamacare thing, I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, uh, it's such a complex thing. I mean, you can only expect a lot of resistance against anything that comes out to replace it. So a tougher one. But hey, maybe with 2020, we could see a far stronger Republican control of the House and the Senate, and see how that goes.
well, the thing with the House of Congress is that, from what I heard, all of the GOP seats that they lost were from never Trump types.
Uh,
So that is pretty likely.
I hope that happens. But I am afraid that I need to scamper off to my comedy routines show now. So we're gonna have to close this condo and move over, and I'll open up the other one and invite you and send out some other invitations. And we'll see you on the other side. Thank you for coming on the show, Dan, and talking about all that interesting stuff about Final Fantasy and Tracy Butler and all these things that are of interest. So very good, and we'll see you soon.
All right, I'll see you.
See ya. That was my poison ivy from Batman and Robin. See ya.
Hey, should I cut the stream on my end?
Sure. Well, you can keep it open if you want, and then like record the comedy show.
I think I'll cut it off here.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you guys.
See ya.
Thanks for watching.